Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to the Daily Compliance News. The Daily Compliance News is an offering of the Compliance Podcast Network. May 28th, 2019, the first opioid trial begins. And we will begin with an article on that subject. In the New York Times, the first opioid trial begins this week in Oklahoma, where the state of Oklahoma is suing Johnson & Johnson for its problems around overprescription of opioids. Both Teva Pharmaceutical and Purdue Pharma have previously settled with the state. This will be the first opioid case to go to trial. It's far from a slam dunk. Nevertheless, Oklahoma has had significant medical care cost from the opioid crisis. It will be, unfortunately, quite a bit of information to come out, and we'll have to see where it goes. Next up, an article in the Wall Street Journal about Venezuelan media mogul Raoul Goran and his attempt to play, or his central role in an attempt to overthrow President Maduro of Venezuela. The attempt came through offers to significant figures in the Maduro regime to have individual sanctions lifted against them if they backed the U.S.-backed head of the National Assembly, Juan Guaido. Apparently, Mr. Goran also was going to make numerous payments to these Venezuelan officials. As we know, the attempted coup on April 30 failed, so it was unclear what will be the next steps, but very interesting to see that lifting of U.S. sanctions could actually be used as a way to get people to overthrow a government. Next up, does your compliance program review ads your company makes? AB InBev got in some hot water early this year because of the Bon and Viv ad. Now, a judge has borrowed Bud Light from suggesting that its rival beers contain corn syrup. This was another very high-profile commercial from the Super Bowl where Budweiser, Bud Light suggested that Coors and Miller Lite contained corn syrup. These two brands took AB InBev to court and had an injunction entered against them to stop them, and they have to actually change their ads. So another black eye for AB InBev going forward. And finally, the former head of the Social Democratic Party in Romania, whose name is Liviu Dragnea, has been jailed for corruption after his attempts to appeal his earlier conviction were overturned. This was certainly a very dramatic ruling by the Romanian court, particularly considered it was controlled by his cronies, and perhaps will lead or at least start the change away from the massive corruption that has plagued Romania and large parts of Eastern Europe and their attempts to more fully integrate into the EU. So a very interesting development there. I hope everyone had a safe and memorable Memorial Day weekend, and welcome to the summer. Join me again tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Compliance News. Finally, I'm extraordinarily pleased to announce a new show which will premiere on the Compliance Podcast Network in the month of June. It will be Trekking Through Compliance, compliance lessons from the original series of Star Trek. I'm going to do the entire TOS oeuvre over the next 79 days. I hope you will check in. It will be a short 5-minute podcast each day with compliance lessons from each episode. It will be a ton of fun.